Hello everyone, my name is Wichit, last name Pritchett, and thank you for joining me for my tutorial on how to texture my 3D Chibi. This video is intended for those who have already purchased the 3D Chibi or who are interested in purchasing it from the Ko-Fi store, links in the description. For those of you tuning in who have never heard of my 3D Chibi base mesh, you've somehow magically fallen upon this video without watching any of my current streams on Twitch or haven't seen any of my posts on Twitter. But in summary, the 3D Chibi base mesh by yours truly has been a passion project to bring 3D Chibis into the VTubing world at a more accessible skill point of no Maya needed, no Blender needed, hyphen, comma, whatever, but most importantly, no external 3D knowledge needed to complete this project. Of course, I will be walking you through how to do all of this. I have a text tutorial written out and a video tutorial, which you're currently watching right now, to assist in the creation process. But without further ado, let's get that file unzipped and set you up with everything you're going to need. We're gonna have to start with some of the headache first. That headache being we are going to be using Unity to update the textures of your 3D Chibi. And just like how I'm going to walk you through how to do and set up everything in the Unity project, the Unity installer should walk you through as seamlessly as possible. I've included that link in the PDF document and in the description below. For those of you who also already have some Unity know-how, if you can open up the Unity Hub and go to the archive section of Unity, we are using Unity version 19.4.31 F1 with no additional components. As Unity is installing, you should head over to the GitHub link in the description or in the PDF document. That'll take you to the latest version of UniVRM. You are going to need most likely what is the first one. It's going to say UniVRM, a bunch of numbers, .unity package. You do not want to download the sample one and you do not want to download the VRM one, just UniVRM.unity package. With all of our initial headache downloads out of the way, let's start getting into texturing. The first method I'm going to introduce is the Clip Studio method, which makes use of Clip Studio Modeler, which is exclusive to the Windows and Mac version of Clip Studio. The reason why I recommend this so much is because you get a live preview of what your textures are going to look like before you load them into Unity. One downside with this is, unfortunately, you cannot draw directly on the model like you can in something like Vroid or Blender. To get started with texturing in the Clip Studio package, open up your Clip Studio launcher. You should see an option called Paint and then Modeler below. Click on Modeler. If you're prompted to install Modeler, please do as such and continue to open up the software. Go ahead and close the new project pop-up and head over to File, Open, and open the CSOM file called All Assets. After opening, you should see the example model and all of the assets around her. Navigate to the project configuration on the right section of your screen and click on the striped sphere button. This will show a material drop-down, something called default material. Click on that folder and you should be presented with all 4 materials. Once you've picked your desired material you'd like to change, click on the bottommost button that has the Clip Studio icon on it called Edit in Paint. After doing so, the program will launch Clip Studio Paint and open up something called Modeler_image. And next to Modeler_image, you're going to see 2 very misleading words, auto and save. That autosave in parentheses does not mean it is auto-saving as a Clip Studio file. If you close out of Modeler_image, it will flatten all of the layers you've just worked on and send it right back to Clip Studio Modeler. Control S also doesn't work as it typically does in Clip Studio. The option will be grayed out if you are on Modeler image. The only way to save your layers is by creating manual saves through Save Duplicate or Save As. I recommend that you name this texture something different from the original clip file that's included in the package, as you are going to need the original clip file to set up the textures to be correct in Unity. The next step is to open the original .clip file and copy and paste the layers included in that file into the modeler image. From there, you can texture with assistance of the live preview. Once you're done with this particular texture, copy all of the layers into a folder and copy and paste that folder back into the original .clip file. After that, make sure to copy that folder again and move it to section 2, trying to line it up with the guide as perfectly as possible. From there, drag that folder into the mask folder called hair removal or wing removal to ensure that both of those toggles work correctly. Repeat this step for the other included materials and save a copy of them as a .clip file. I also recommend having all 4 textures open in the background within Clip Studio, as you're going to need them during the Unity phase. An extra note about the mouth texture is that the different mouth forms cannot be previewed within Clip Studio Modeler. For the best results, I recommend using the mouth shapes that I have provided as a guide or reference. And once you have finished all of your textures and are ready to export, test your model out in a software like VSeeFace, which supports the extra consonants. After that, you can adjust the textures and re-export it as a VRM file. That includes our section dedicated to Clip Studio and leads us into our bonus section about how to texture in Blender. I've included a special blend file that has a lot of the complicated stuff removed and just has the texture painting section in it. You're going to need to install version 3.30 of Blender, which I've included in the description below. With Blender downloaded, open up the blend file and you should see a layout kind of similar to Vroid. One of the pros about Blender is that you can physically draw on top of the model, and you can also draw in the 2D preview mode. Unlike Clip Studio and other painting and drawing softwares, Blender does not have any layer system, and if you hit Ctrl S, it will not save the image. You're going to need to go up to Image and Save As and do manual saves to save your progress. I've included a textures folder, which I recommend you saving all of those images to. I do need to add a quick note to those who are fluent in Blender that the file included does not have a armature, and a lot of the vertices are detached. It is purely made to have ease of texturing. With that mini disclosure out of the way, here's how you start texturing in Blender. With the project open, you will be starting in object mode. Select the asset you would like to start texturing, and within the drop-down that says object mode, swap over to texture paint. Within the texture painting mode, there are 3 tools I like to use. You can access those different tools by going to the mix drop-down. The 3 tools I use from the mix drop-down are mix to draw and paint on the model, alpha erase to erase parts of the model, and alpha add to add back parts that I erased from the model. Unfortunately, Blender alone is not sufficient to create the Unity ready textures. You are going to need an additional photo editing software or drawing software to make the necessary transforms for the duplicated textures, such as the body face and effects textures. Once you're happy with the texture you're working on, go to Image, Save As, and save that file to the texture folder and open it up in your drawing program of choice. To swap to a different asset in the Blender file, go back up to Texture Paint and swap back to Object Mode and pick a new item to draw on. Another additional note is for people using drawing tablets, make sure on the radius and strength you have the little pen radius buttons selected, which indicates to Blender that you would like to use your pressure sensitivity to dictate those things. In the event your Blender crashes and when you reopen the file, your textures either look very different or they look purple, do not panic. Navigate to the image button on the 2D texturing side that is on the horizontal divider, and you should see a drop down that has the file location of the file name of the texture you were using. Open up the Browse Image button and select the PNG that you were using to texture, and that should correct everything. Those are the 2 methods I recommend using for this project. However, I have included the PSD files so that you can edit them in any drawing program you prefer to use. I cannot guarantee that all of the file setup with the layers and masks will be the same, but moving past that, that means it's time to go into Unity. With everything installed, open up the Unity Hub and create a new project. Make sure you're using Unity version 19.4.31 as your editor of choice. Once the Unity project loads up, go up to Assets, Custom Package, and import your UniVRM package. Make sure everything is selected and you import it, and you also follow all the prompts. Once that's done loading, open up a file explorer, drag and drop the Chibi VRM file into the Unity project. Now's the time to make sure all your textures are perfect and in place and that you have your drawing program open with all 4 textures also open. Within Unity, drag the VRM file into the hierarchy. After that, navigate back to the project tab and look for the Wichit 3D Chibi.texture folder. Right-click on the texture you would like to change and press Show in Explorer. A new Explorer window should pop up. At the top, make sure to copy the file directory. Go back over to your drawing program and press the Export or Save As option. When prompted where you would like to save the file, paste the file directory and press the arrow button to confirm. Make sure you change the file type to PNG and click on the texture you would like to change. Confirm and override the file. Back in Unity, you should see that your Chibi has changed its textures. You can also make sure to adjust for compression within Unity by changing a few options as shown. Once you're 100% happy with all of your textures, click on the Chibi's name in the hierarchy and go up to VRM0 at the top of the Unity screen. From here, you're welcome to change the insert character name to your VTuber or OC's character, and then press export. I recommend saving this VRM file to wherever you store your other VRM files or somewhere outside of the project directory. And with that, you survived all of the steps to have your own customizable 3D Chibi ready for VTubing. Again, I recommend using VSeeFace because of the extra support with blend shapes. If you have any issues with something like the wing or hair toggles, open up the expression settings and turn down the transition time to 0 seconds. And I believe that's everything I have for you today. Feel free to leave any questions you might have in the comments below, and be sure to follow me on Twitter and Twitch for future product updates. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll see you around later.